Chapter 7 Clay Hollow's Price. Each morning, as always, Rohma met with Yashira at the Akawan Guild home. They worked for 2 hours before Rohma left on guild business of her own. Today's task took her to the Clay Hollow clan, a cluster of huts just outside of Shahab in the desert. Luckily, Cade had left her a horse. Kadesh was short, shaggy, and tough, a perfect little steppe mare. Cade had once joked that Kadesh was smarter than her rider. It had taken Rohma weeks to earn the mare's trust, and even now, the horse's affection came in cautious doses. Clay Hollow was built on the edge of a deep ravine where flash floods sometimes raged. Ropes, ladders, and platforms clung precariously to the rock, a system that looked temporary and dangerous. Buckets of clay-rich mud were being hauled up from the depths, and everyone below was caked in grime. At the very bottom, a single puddle remained, a memento of the last flash flood. "Salutations, my friends," Rohma called out. The buildings were on the opposite side of the ravine, leaving her unable to approach without going the long way round. Several heads turned up. Words were exchanged, but they didn't carry to her. Rohma dismounted, letting Kadesh wander. "Well met, traveler." Rohma could hear the voice, but she didn't spot anyone for a moment, not until she looked down. A head had popped up from the edge of the ravine. Rohma approached it, unsteady. "I have come from Shahab. I understand you have a need?" The woman looked closely. "Our need is of a violent nature, girl." Rohma squatted, but didn't approach the edge. "I know violent people." The woman nodded. "Come down, then." She disappeared past the cliff's edge. Rohma steadied herself and approached. From the very edge, she saw a platform and a series of ladders and ropes extending down. Rohma gulped, turned, and started on the first ladder. On the platform below, the woman waited. Rohma extended her hand casually, trying to be friendly, but she still shook. With the touch, Rohma flew over a life of climbing, swinging, and playing across the platforms. She saw how quickly teams could pull the platforms up. Nothing was staked to the ravine wall. Nothing. Nothing at all was permanent. That fact lived deep in these people. She saw the woman laughing at her fear, and Rohma joined her. It's silly of me to be so afraid," Rohma laughed. The woman shook her head. "Newcomers often are. It does not shame you. I am Brada." "I am Rohma. Do we cross this way?" Rohma started again, bolstered by the knowledge of how, but slowed by a lack of practice. The woman followed quietly, impressed. Once on the other side, Brada gestured towards the hut. They sat down, and tea was brought to them by a younger girl. "Tell me of your troubles, Brada," Rohma asked. She already had some idea, but the knowledge could be gained from how a person told a thing. "We go to Shahab once a moon. We deliver our goods to a friend in the Akawan clan, guild. We sell our wares, and we receive payment. It has been a beneficial arrangement for years. However, last month, one of our daughters went with the goods. Akawan claims they were received, that Nemo was paid and left, but she never came home." The woman made a face that was hard to read. Her hand rested on the table, palm down. Rohma smiled gently, resting her hand on top of the woman's. "Who would return here if they had that money? Perhaps not this woman, but Nemo would. She would never run off, but that is what she will say." "She must have been trusted and loved to have such an important job. And to do it alone?" Brada's lower lip pulled in, her nose reddened. "I would go with her, but I was ill." "You took the trip with her. Was there anywhere else you would stop? What is the exact route?" Rohma held her hand over Brada's, comforting. She watched the memories of past visits, a crow's eye point of view, above, removed. The women moved through rough neighborhoods, pulling an empty cart behind them. Brada pulled. Nemo walked behind, pushing the cart when it got stuck in ruts. Men whistled as they passed a corner, nearly every time. The corner frightened them both. Brada had been speaking, recounting the story, but Rohma only half listened. Her focus was on the memories unfolding behind her eyes. When she saw what she was looking for, she cut in. Tell me about the corner near the velvet lantern. Brada blinked, surprised. You mean the building with the purple awning? I do. Rohma hesitated. Brada hadn't said the name, but she recognized it instantly. It was where Tevin had been dumped. The men outside, they always talk to us. Mostly to little Nima. Brada held her hands in fists. They grabbed at her once. Said she would make more inside. I was so mad. I turned around and punched one. I should have been with her. Breda, I believe she might be inside the Velvet Lantern or nearby. It's a practice. Some brothels take young girls and sell them. I can bring her back, but you have to sign this. Can you make a mark? Rohma pulled a sheet of paper from her pocket. Brada leaned close. I have a mark, but I can't read. Not the language of the Empire. That's fine. Rohma pressed the paper to the table. This is a writ of chattel reclamation. I took the liberty of having it approved by the Imperial clerk. She pressed her finger against the seal. Brada nodded. This will give me permission to act on Clay Hollow's behalf and retrieve the girl. Perhaps negotiate some kind of fine if she were harmed. Rohma handed Brada a charcoal pen. Brada made a mark and paused. Can you kill them if they hurt her? Rohma frowned. Only if I absolutely have to. That's too bad, Brada sighed. How much will this cost us? Loyalty to Tasso's guild, Rohma answered firmly. I can't read your language, but I'm no fool, Brada scowled. Loyalty? Clay Hollow will fall under Tassos from henceforth. As slaves? Brada shoved the pencil against the table. As citizens, Rohma corrected. Her heart pounded. How had she lost control so completely? Citizens? Get out! Breda stood, looming over Rohma's chair. Rohma backed away, stunned. She hurriedly left the hut and crossed the ravine as fast as her skill would allow. These people had nothing. Being enfolded by Tassos would elevate them, give them access. Slaves? They would lose freedom. Rohma looked at the mud huts again, proud in the setting sun. They asked for nothing. They owed nothing. Only now they had a need. Rohma knew where she would have to go next. Nima would come home. Rohma rode directly to the Velvet Lantern. There was no velvet. Not on the outside, anyway. The awning over the door had once been purple, an expensive color, but in places it was white. The street stunk of a mix of piss, vomit, and strong drink. A girl stood at the door, naked except for a thin shirt. I'm looking for a girl. Nima, Rohma whispered to her. The girl turned and walked away, revealing bruises on her back. Rohma stepped in. The inside was dark. The smell was only slightly better. Incense, piss, and strong drink. A man appeared in her path immediately. He smiled, missing only 3 teeth. Looking for work? No. Rohma caught his hand, stroking it with her thumb. Nima. Rohma only said her name. She was speaking to his mind, not the man. The crow flew up the stairs, 3rd room. Rohma walked past him and up the stairs. I am an agent of the Guild Tassos. I am here enforcing an imperial writ of chattel reclamation. She held the paper in front of her like a shield. Men and women stepped out of her way. Her heart fluttered, a mix of terror and excitement. This was going to work. Rohma opened the door, glancing in. A girl sat on a mat, naked and terrified. Nima, come with me. Rohma reached out to her. A hand opened. The girl stood up and ran to her. Rohma held her against her. The girl shook, but Rohma didn't want to pause. Exit was close. Rohma didn't see the man before he pushed her back into the room. Rohma landed hard on the floor, Nima under her. The door closed behind. The crowd outside, the street below, all went quiet. Young Nima screamed, fleeing back to the mat. Rohma saw the marks on her back as well. Above her, a man stood holding the writ. The man was not Few Teeth from downstairs. This one had a nice coat, worn, but it was nice. So, someone scraped up enough money to retrieve her, and they sent you. He laughed, dropping the writ. That's an imperial writ. There will be consequences if it's not obeyed. Rohma tried to hold the terror from her words, pushing herself up off the floor. He struggled, laughing. I don't see a writ, you yokel crock. He kicked, and it landed hard in Roma's stomach. She gasped, crumbled, coughing and gagging all at the same time. Water and bile came out of her mouth as she rolled. On your knees, or I'll kick again. Roma could feel hands on her, gentle and persistent. Nima was helping her up. Roma was kneeling, and the man touched her jaw. It was a possessive move, dominant and threatening. It was exactly what Roma needed. She burned through him. The crow flew across the pages of his memory, setting it on fire as it went. He screamed and tried to jerk his hand away, but Roma grabbed it. He fell to his knees, his eyes wide in terror, his whole life burnt from inside. She let go, and he fell over, drooling. His eyes were still open, breathing softly. Nima clung to her. Roma slid to the ground as well, dizzily looking up at the ceiling. We've got to go, Roma murmured. Nima picked up the writ, handing it to Roma. I have you. The girl was small, but like Brada, she was strong. Roma leaned hard on the girl as they opened the door, leaving the drooling brothel owner on the floor. Again, people stepped aside. Roma went down the stairs and out, Nima practically carrying her, both women behind the writ as if it were a shield. Roma gestured to Kadesh. Nima could help her only enough to get her over the back of the animal. Nima rode down the street, her head held high and the writ in her hand. Kadesh walked behind. Roma slept. Somewhere from inside the velvet lantern, someone screamed. Ash and Purpose. Chapter 18. Cade received the letter from Roma before the camp settled for dinner. It was their first night stationed at the construction site. It would be a boring stay until the road was built and the bridge completed. The packet from Roma included 2 letters, one report for Cade and a smaller note to Edic. Cade smiled and set it aside. It was a good choice for her. Edic sat by the fire, a bowl of food untouched and papers unfolded neatly in his hands. Can you read, son? Cade asked, watching him stare at the sheet. Well enough. He smiled brightly. This will be good practice, he began. His lips moved silently to sound out some words. Edic, my sunlight. I hope you are well, my darling. I had an incredible adventure. I say that, but it laid me up at Yashiro's for a while. It wasn't all good. But my darling, I saved a girl. Edic paused. She saved a girl? Damn, she knows some words. He squinted. She had a... Wait. Cade, what is this one? Incredible, Cade said. She is, Edic muttered, nodding. Dex laughed silently. She could have spared you and said good. I got it, Edic muttered, tossing a stick at him. Smiling, he continued to read silently. Edic's brow furrowed. He stood. She got kicked, he muttered. Kicked! The yell escaped him. By some piece of shit in a brothel. Dex didn't blink. Cade's eyebrows shot up. He knew, but he hadn't expected her to tell him that part. By a sex-trading, girl-stealing scum, Edic cursed, grinding the words through his teeth. Keep reading, Edic, Edic said softly. She made it out. Edic read again, then looked at the watchers. She burned him. Edic stopped, eyes turned skyward. His face was puffy. She burned him, Dex. What do you think that cost her? Burned? Dex asked. His mind. Edic sat down. I miss you. I wish I could touch you now. Just hold your hand. You bring me so much peace. In the mornings, I wake with the ash of that man's life in my mouth. The girl is safe. The guilt is stronger. That's what matters. With all my affection, Roma. Edic folded the paper, tucking it into his armor. He sat in a mix of emotion, each one fighting for dominance, but anger won every time. She didn't understand. She was what mattered. Dex, Edic barked sharply. Spar? Dex's gaze swept him, slow, considering. I'll hurt your back, Ed. Dex took a final bite of food and stood, already knowing the answer. Fine, Edic growled. Good. As Edic and Dex walked away from the fire, grabbing practice swords, Nadim and Tarek passed them on their way in, holding bowls of stew. The boys stared after them. "Where are they going?" Tarek asked. Nadim ate a chunk of meat with his fingers. "Is there trouble?" he asked, mouth full. "They're going to beat each other senseless," Katie said, taking a bite. He shook his head. The boys looked at each other and ran to catch up, trying not to spill. This was not something they wanted to miss. They watched the fight, finished their dinner, then lay down in the hay. By the time Edic and Dex sat down again, the boys were asleep. Edic's cheek was swollen, a deep purple, already spreading. Dex's lip bled. The arms and chests of both men showed fresh welts. They passed a water skin back and forth. Edic took the skin. That was a good move, the last one. "I was hoping you'd be knocked unconscious," Dex said, laughing. Edic side-eyed him. "I'm tired," Dex sighed. When he said it, he meant physically, but now he could feel a deeper ache. "You need to leave, Edic." Edic looked over, surprised. He waited. "Go to her. You belong with her, protecting her, not some fucking bridge." Dex stood and tossed the water skin at him as he walked away. Dex walked to the quiet stream that the bridge would cross. The water was low this time of year. He knelt by it and wet his face. The smell of wet earth brought back the memory of holding his girls on the bank of the pond. His chest ached, deeper than any welt Edic could have given him. It was the pain of words unsaid. Soon he would be in the north. Perhaps that would be the end of his story. Even if she didn't care, he wanted her to know. Dex went to the shared tent, lit a candle, and finally wrote to Drei. Drei stared out the window. Her leg burned, even though it wasn't there. Somewhere in the world, her family was working, fighting, maybe in danger. And she was in the finest bed she had ever seen. No letters had arrived, and she had no desire to write any. She ate like nobility every night. She was waited on. She saw a teacher every day, and nurses and doctors, herbalists, wandered in at regular frequency and took her pain. But she was left empty. Everything she had ever imagined she had disappeared with her leg. Dr. Emil Rozovsky walked into the room. "Have you walked today?" "No." Rohma bit the word. "Get up." Emil handed Drei the crutches. "You're not the one who normally takes me out on a walk, Emil. Something special today?" "My name is Dr. Rozovsky, or you can call me by my title, Darman Salar. But until you have earned the right to address me as Emil, you will not do so." Drei nodded, standing with her crutches. "You are ungrateful." "Why should I be grateful for things I never asked for?" The Dharam Salar stepped back, examining Drei. "You think you are tough, don't you? You think you have suffered terribly. Poor Drei, mercenary princess, got an ouchie." Drei sat down. "I will not be mocked." "You are very mockable, Drei. Come with me. I will show you the gift that you have been given. It isn't this bed or food or..." Emil walked to the window and sighed. "This view." Drei didn't move. Emil turned to look at her. "You wanted to matter. You wanted to help people, protect?" Drei nodded. "I'm useless now." "No, Drei. You are naive. You are untrained. You are adjusting to your new body, but you are far from useless. You are smart. Your hands are precise, not just dexterous. I have seen your work. Kate sent it to me months ago, before this accident. Get up." Drei stood again. The woman was lean and small. She felt tiny next to Drei, but her words could cut. Drei wasn't ashamed to admit it, but this intense little woman frightened her a bit. "Follow me." The woman walked slowly out of the room and down the hall. She moved slow enough to let Drei keep up, but not so slow as to make it easy. "Today we go downstairs." "I can't." Rommel rounded. "You will. Come." "There was a small clash this morning. I don't know the cause, but I want you to see." Drei reached the first step. "I can't." "Put both of the crutches in one hand. Hold to the railing. Lean into it. Hop! You can hop, can't you?" Drei hopped on one foot down the step. The landing sent a shock of pain through her body. It was stiff. "Good. Use your crutches. Put them where you are going. Drei took another step, this time using the crutch more. It was a little easier. She hated Emil and she would never admit it, but it almost made her want to smile. Drei, I want you to imagine your friends are out doing something stupid, guarding a grain silo from someone who isn't supposed to use it. They get in a fight, let's say. Drei, you managed to fight too. Wouldn't that be nice? Emil's words dripped with sarcasm. But oh no, Drei, your friend is wounded. His leg is cut off, or worse. What do you do? Emil waited, not expecting an answer, but letting the concept slip into Drei's mind. Drei reached the first landing. Her speed was increasing. As she started the next set of stairs, Emil started again. Will you sit in your silo and watch them die for it? No, Drei answered. I think you would, Emil teased. I wouldn't. Drei's focus was on the steps, frustrated with the conversation, but too focused on the next move to argue. Finally, she reached the bottom. What would you do? Tell me, Drei. Your friend bleeding out. His leg gone. What will Drei, the mercenary princess, do? Emil was directly in front of her, confrontation in her eyes. The room that they had entered finally reached Drei's attention. It was busy. The smell, blood, herbs, perhaps alcohol. On the table near Drei, an herbalist held the head of a small boy. His stomach was wounded, cut open. A man cleaned the wound, treating it with herbs. A second went in. He started sewing. Drei stood enraptured. Emil walked away, tending to a different person. The whole morning, she watched miracle after miracle. She walked from table to table. People she would have counted as dead, saved. It happened over and over again. She wasn't sure how long she'd watched, how much she had witnessed, when Dr. Renzovsky stood before her again. Come and sit. It was quieter now, and Emil guided Drei to a chair. Tell me, Drei, do you remember the question? Your friend is hurt. What will you do? Her voice didn't mock now. Drei met her eye, ferocious with determination. I will heal them. Drei smiled. Yes. You will become a Diamond Salar, like me, and you will fight the true enemy. Drei said nothing, but her look questioned. Emil smiled. Death.